if there's ever been a more heavily adapted Doctor Who story than any other, then it's this one. Shada has been through version after version since its production in 1979, in which a combination of rampant inflation and union strikes halted production partway through filming. Material from the aborted serial was to find use on a few occasions in the years that followed. Some short film extracts were recycled in scenes for the 20th anniversary serial The Five Doctors in 1983. However, it would not be until 1992 that any substantial parts of Shada would publicly release on a special VHS. Enter the 21st century, and this serial would see 3 separate animations, the most prolific of which would be the 2017 restoration that saw the original cast return to fill in the blanks. The Doctor, Romana and K9 receive a message from an old friend, a retired Time Lord living as a college professor in Cambridge. He's misplaced an ancient Gallifreyan artifact that could unlock the dark secrets of Shada, the lost prison of the Time Lords, and unless they find it before the crazed scientist Skagra, every sentient being in the universe is doomed. Before the 2017 animation, there was the 2003 webcast featuring Paul McGann as the 8th Doctor, replacing Tom Baker as the 4th Doctor after he declined to return. This webcast was heavily moulded around the audio play by Big Finish and saw a handful of alterations from the original story. The following animation was an unofficial animation funded by Ian Levine, released in 2011. This release would be much closer to the original story, however, both Tom Baker and David Brearley were unable to return. However, the 2017 animation would see a massive effort to complete the serial officially, using newly recorded dialogue from the original cast and newly animated footage to complete the missing segments in between the live-action performances. These new sequences were animated by the same team, including Charles Norton, that produced the Power of the Daleks animation the previous year. This new production faced a number of different challenges. Firstly, there were over 6 hours of raw, unedited studio recordings and nearly half an hour of raw film sequences that needed to be edited from scratch. The animation process followed 2 sound studio sessions in June 2017, in a process that lasted through until the start of November. Along with these new animations, visual effect sequences that were left unfinished in 1979 were also now completed, as well as newly filmed model sequences in August 2017. This was intentionally done using only techniques that would have been available to the BBC in 1979. Additional live-action footage featuring Tom Baker appears at the end of the story, back at home in his TARDIS console. As well as this, live-action reference footage was produced in order to help the animation team in character movement. 2 short scenes, originally intended for animation, were cut during production for reasons of pacing. The animation itself features an impressive array of 3D and 2D environments, as well as relatively fluid movements from the characters in terms of their actions and speech. Another problem was the history between Tom Baker and Lalla Ward, with the brief marriage and following divorce leaving the two on what seems to be non-speaking terms. To my knowledge, sound studio recordings would see the two separated, recording their lines at different times. This fact, I believe, continues to this day when recording for Big Finish audio stories, and, unfortunately, this separation can hinder the performances portrayed. Meanwhile, once again, new music and sound design was completed by Mark Ayres. The new incidental score was produced in the style of 1970s Doctor Who, with sound effects coming straight from the BBC Radiophonic Workshop. Production on Shada was finally completed in November 2017, over 38 years after it had first begun. Nearly a year and a half would go by until the next missing episode animation would find its release, but this wait was more than enough for fans of the show, as this next release would be considered by some as one of the best missing episode animations to have ever been produced. Thanks for watching. The response to these videos just keeps getting more and more amazing. I'm so glad loads of people are enjoying them. I just thought I could, promote my Twitter and my TikTok, as well as my Patreon if anyone's interested. These videos are extremely fun to make, but this series unfortunately can't go on forever. Please let me know of anything you'd be interested in me covering, and even feel free to email me at the email in the About section on my channel. I do have a series in mind about the revived series, but there are so many fascinating stories about Classic Who. I do want to go through my DVD and Blu-ray collection at some point, but that'll likely just be a bonus video. Anyway, I'm Sam, and I'll see you next time.